Do it properly.
1, 2. Hello, welcome to the Friends of Zeus podcast. I'm Zeus. With me tonight is Michael, Andy, and Desiree. We are going to be talking about some fun stuff tonight, but what I first want to do is get the business out of the way. You can find us on YouTube, the Facebook, or Meta, Stitcher, Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and there's rumblings on Rumble. And while we're at it, check out the Nurses Are In podcast. It's up on, we've got links to on several of those things that I just talked about. So
it's on all the podcasts apps.
It's on all of them because we crushed
all of them.
That's another podcast that myself and Desiree and two other friends, Mary and Dana, are on. But as of the first,
but they're like the PRN members.
Yeah, they're PRN. Do you guys know what PRN is?
No.
Okay.
As needed.
It actually, yeah, it's like as needed. It's Latin for as needed. Why didn't they just say as needed? Don't know.
But you never actually really see the PRN people because they're, even when they do work, they're like floated somewhere else. So you really don't ever see them.
You don't ever see them.
Yeah. It's not something that it's something that's unique to nursing and maybe a few other industries where you have to constantly be it's contractors, basically. Where you have to just pull in other people that share your profession and they get paid a lot more, but no insurance. And that's about what that is. But yeah, check out the Nurses Are In, and let's get ready to go. We're going to be talking about, what are we going to talk about today?
A little bit of Disney and, well, maybe more Disney. So we've been talking about this topic, and we've talked about doing a topic like this, and also it tends to come up in other episodes. And that is specifically sort of the, culture war, for lack of a better word, as it relates to businesses in our world now, and how they are navigating it, how they are trying to stay out of it, how are they participating in it, advocating, becoming activist companies themselves, what it means to their for their products, for their health as a company, for their shareholders, for our culture, and all of that. And one of these companies, Disney, obviously has been in the news for multiple reasons around this issue lately. So, we're going to focus a lot on Disney, but it's really across industries, not just entertainment and news, which we talk about a lot, but car companies, sports leagues, the NFL, baseball, the NBA, streaming services, Home Depot. I mean, Home Depot was one I found. They are actually fairly active, but not so much with woke stuff. I mean, they tend to be more conservative. They're the only one I could think of. But what I wanted to kind of get in, even if we're just talking about Disney, and there's a lot of fun stuff about Disney, but this is actually a topic that I'm really not, I don't have a fully formed opinion on all this yet. Like, I'm really curious why all this is happening. It's definitely an odd phenomenon. There have been companies in the past. Penzi Spices is one of them.
Chick-fil-A.
Who?
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A.
Right side. They're more
Hobby
Lobby. Yeah, there's been companies that have kind of dove into this, but it just seems to be kind of endemic now. And I started like kind of brainstorming possible reasons, and at the end of this episode I would like to at least get your guys' opinion. Maybe we can just focus on Disney as far as like what's driving this, but in no particular order. And these are just things I'm thinking that are possible. I'm not saying it's any of these, but either the management or employees are just true believers in doing this. They feel that for financial reasons they want to be on the winning side of this. They're like, this is where it's going. We're going to be there. And I think companies like Kellogg's and some of these other companies that have been doing this for a while, whether it's just ignorance, where people in these companies think that this is a game or that it's something that's some sort of minor thing, and they're just dipping their toe in. They don't understand what they're getting into. Whether it's out of maliciousness, they know exactly what they're doing, and they are, condoning and have picked sides, as it were.
Some might say pandering.
Pandering. Are they doing this out of fear of the quote unquote mob or, the government or what have you? And I can't, there's a couple companies I kind of have an opinion about, but I feel like it's more of a cultural shift than it is individual companies just happening just to get into this. So anyway, I'd love to get your guys' opinions at the end of this or even during it, what you think's driving it. Now, thinking about this, and I don't know how much you guys are familiar with ESGs or not in finances, in financial terms. I'm sure you guys have like 401ks or pensions or things along those lines, investments. And ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. And it is basically a matrix of measurement that you can score a company on that relates to their environmental policies, their social and social justice policies.
Like Zagat's.
Kind of, and it's in the last few years, there have been, I think Vanguard is one of them, not Janus, I can't remember the other one. Have actually started maybe Fidelity, they have started ESG funds. So they are scoring these companies based on this matrix, offering them kind of like as a package deal for people that are putting their money into, say, a Vanguard account and saying, I only want to invest in ESG companies, as opposed to, I'm looking for a high risk, high reward, or I want something that's safe, or I only want companies that are American, or whatever. There's a million different options you can pick when you're investing. But this has been kind of recent, and
it sounds shady as hell.
It does. And I'll show you something on a slide here real quick, just to help explain it. But where that's one thing, the layer that has now been put on top of that as of like last spring, and it's still working its way kind of through our bureaucracy, is the Security and Exchange Commission is developing, and in the middle of developing, and kind of actually nearing the end of developing policies to score these companies and to have oversight, so that if Zeus International says, what, our ESG score is fantastic, look at all this stuff we do, SEC as an independent entity can score that company and actually can criminally charge, right, and have punishments if you are found to be greenwashing your record. In other words, it would just be like in any other sort of investment related thing where a company's pumping up what its third quarter expectations are in order to get people to buy their stock, and that's illegal. Or like what Elon Musk, people have said that he's been trying to control the market with his tweets. So because this ESG thing has kind of entered the tide pool, now the SEC is coming in to regulate it. And where it gets to the third level of hell is that they are defining what is a good score and what isn't. So in other words, like, it's diversity. There's a lot of, and let me just pull this up here. Give me spare 1 second here.
It has a very insider trading vibe to it.
So the higher the score would mean what?
I don't know exactly what, if it's a high, low, or what, but it's basically the companies, there's going to be independent, just like there are now, accrediting firms, right, that will say, You know, these are the companies that rate A. These are A companies in our ESG score. These are B, these are C. And then the SEC would come behind and say, okay, we agree with that. Those are A companies. Are like, oh, wait, hold a minute. Zeus Incorporated is really, they should be a D ESG company, but you're putting them in your A ESG, you know, thing here.
It would mean you're environmentally friendly if you've got a good score, I would think.
Correct.
Is it environment, or is it like wokeness and social goodness type stuff?
Right. So environmental impact on the planet, greenhouse gas emissions, air and water pollution. And again, these things sound great. All right. We don't want to have air and water pollution, but what's the measurement for this? Like, in other words, the devil's in the details, right? I mean, it's like, okay, well, how much pollution are we allowed? We're a coal plant, right? We're going to have some air pollution, deforestation, you know, all these things, diversity and inclusion, company culture. I mean, who defines that? Who defines what's good and what's bad? Ethical supply chain sourcing. Again, these
means
are
no child labor.
yeah, some of these obviously seem to make sense, but you know, typically for the purposes of investing, companies were judged on what their return to investors was, namely shareholders.
Right.
Because when you're investing money, that seems to be the thing that's the most important thing, right? To people. So having this get layered over that, I just see it as hugely problematic. And I don't know if this is one of the things that's driving these companies to really go forward the way they have been. If I go to this next slide, can you guys see Gina on here?
Mandalorian star Gina.
Yes.
Fired.
Okay. So, and this is a segue into the Disney part of this. You know, this was a couple years ago,
Not
a year and a half ago.
Maybe.
You know, she was fired. She was one of the characters on Mandalorian. She was fired. And, you know, it took me forever to find out what it was that she even said, right? I mean, there's this quote here from the Lucasfilm spokesperson, who, again, this is Disney. Her social media posts denigrating people based on their culture and religious identities are abhorrent and unacceptable. I'm like, wow, yeah, that's pretty bad if she was doing that.
Has anybody seen Aladdin, where anybody from the Middle East is like brutish and awful in it?
Yeah, and you can get in.
I don't get that.
And then, so I found this. I'm sorry if it's hard to read. Can you guys see this post now?
No, it's huge.
Jews were beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors.
Even by children. And it says, and then she said, because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where the Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? So that, I mean, I just don't know how someone reads that and then says she's denigrating people based on their culture and religious identities. She also was against mask mandates and floated.
Oh, wait, this is what she wrote?
This is what she wrote.
That's the article that she
She
posted or
yeah, she posted,
okay.
she retweeted, right? This is what got her fired. And what her point was she was basically saying that, you know, Republicans are treated the way Jews were during the Holocaust. And
that's what pissed people off.
That's what pissed people off. And again, she was also anti-mask mandate, and she also, you know, had issues with the 2020 election. So again, this gets into, now, where does this fit into the ESG? Like, do they need to get rid of her to maintain the social aspect, or, you know, the company governance? And again, you can see, again, how these rules get put into place. The definitions shift and change, but the punishments remain. And it's not just punishing the companies by this rating, but you're talking about all Americans' 401k plans. You're talking about federal pension programs, and all of this money that is now look, we're only going to invest. We're the federal government. We have this. We control these, multi-billions in pensions. We're not going to invest in your company unless you have a high ESG score. I mean, do you see how this is like putting someone's arm behind their back a little bit to get them to do what you want them to do?
Interestingly, I mean,
It's almost like cancel culture, but for money.
But for money and for companies, and with an enforcement arm to it as well. So anyway, for whatever that, I think you're going to be hearing more about ESG over the next few years, or maybe even few months. It's definitely a mechanism of control. And again, like a lot of things, it sounds great, when you first hear about it, but the devil's in the details. So anyway, I was just setting the table with all that stuff. But
I mean, like part of what she said, I get. I don't know if I necessarily equate Republicans now with the Jews,
Yeah, I'm not advocating for what she said.
So, I mean,
just a PSA, you should never compare anything to the Jews or Hitler. Just don't ever do that. It's just don't.
Just don't do it. Yeah, I'm not speaking to the rightness or wrongness of what she said. I'm saying.
Well, no, but I mean, for what it's worth, I don't necessarily disagree with where she's coming from. It's overboard, but right now, yeah, people are persecuted for having different values, and values are important, whether you agree with them or not. That's moot.
But I think it's ironic when she's saying that she's part of a cohort that's being treated a certain way, and she says it maybe in a troublesome way, but then she loses her job for it. I mean, it just proves her point, doesn't it? I mean, doesn't it kind of prove her?
And that's where I have issue with it, because it doesn't really prove her point. She wasn't beaten in the streets by children and others. She was fired.
No, that wasn't her point. Her point was she said that
just from having a view, a religion, a viewpoint, or political party affiliation, like you're being some form of punishment is happening. Somebody is doing something to you.
That the government
just because you're expressing that.
Neighbors and friends.
The way I see it is having a viewpoint is different than having a religious doctrine that you follow your entire life.
Right. That's why I said nobody should just ever compare anything to the Jews or Hitler.
And
just
Zeus,
never that.
And Zeus, the point is not that the point is that the government is having neighbors / friends as the enforcement arm.
Right.
That was her point. It wasn't like that she's equating Republicans to Jewish people in the Holocaust. I mean, it was an unfortunate comparison, but again, and this goes back to like giving people the benefit of the doubt. There's certain people we do not give any benefit of the doubt to, and then there's other people like Colbert sending all the people into the 7 people in the Capitol, whatever. But he's given all the benefit of the doubt, right? So
it's got a McCarthyism vibe to it.
It's kind of one way. But so to get to Disney, I think, Disney, there are certain things, obviously the bill in Florida about not teaching certain things to kindergarten through 3rd graders, and how that became very polarizing. You've got.
Can I just ask, obviously I know what it was about, but are they saying don't talk about it, don't put it in a textbook? Because I don't remember being in the 2nd grade talking about any type of sexual relationship. So I don't really know.
Yeah, that's kind of my point.
We did but Virginia has been progressive with education. We were talking about sex pretty.
In kindergarten?
Not in kindergarten, but
that's the point.
Maybe 5th or 6th.
Yeah, this
is kindergarten to 3rd.
This is kindergarten to 3rd. So they left that out of a lot of news stories. And then the other thing is, my whole point was this has nothing to do with LBGT, whatever. It has to do with I don't want my 2nd grade teacher talking to my kid about heterosexual sex either, right? It's not. It's just not. It's not the place. It's not the age, and they're not the people. That's a family that's a family thing. But anyway, that obviously got all blown up. And then you have Disney, people in their creative department that have been out there outright saying that they are, pushing certain agendas in their movies, especially in their animated movies, on purpose for a reason, right? So, and what's that mean? And why are they doing that? And how's the public relating back to that? You also have all the old things like we were talking about with the Aladdin poster and things along those lines, or Little Mermaid, whatever it was.
The Jack on the Little Mermaid cover.
Yeah, that may be like faux pas, but I don't know that those were, and they may have been put in intentionally as a joke, but I don't know that they were put in as a way of kind of like having an advocacy or pushing some kind of social agenda. I mean, maybe, I don't know, but
I think it was such some idiot trying to get away with something, but
or genius. I think that's hilarious.
I mean, the thing with the parental rights law that they passed in Florida that really got a lot of people pissed off was the CEO of Disney came out after that and said that Disney the company was going to work hard to get that law repealed. So you have a business that has certain perks and things in Florida that is going to use its wherewithal to enter the political realm and to actually try to get legislation repealed. Like, when did that happen? You know what I mean? I mean, I know obviously companies lobby all the time. I mean, that's Washington, D.C.'s lifeblood. But there's a big difference between that and a company just taking, trying to get a law overturned that really has nothing to do with them and their business.
That just means they're paying lobbyists to go on their behalf. I mean,
but they all do. I mean, all of them do. All the big companies and, all the big nonprofits, NRA, they pay a shitload of lobbyists. My thing is, yes, I do agree that Disney's clever because they send you guys the list. I don't know if you guys had a chance. I think Mike had a chance to look at the list, but they're very clever because they own a lot of, what do you want to call it? They have a lot of interests. They're the mother company for a lot of ESPN,
ABC,
Hulu, I think.
Hulu, 40%, yeah.
What I find in Vice, what I find interesting about it is they are kind of spreading themselves out in that gray area of companies that could go one way or another. You get certain vibes. Obviously, ESPN, ABC are probably more to their political leanings, but I gotta respect the fact that they're spreading it out there so they can, if they need to switch teams at any point, all they got to do is go over to these other companies that they're they own. But what I will say is, again, this goes back to my it's not conspiracy, it's choreography kind of thought process. And there's interesting things like, for instance, with they've got two new shows that recently came out. One was Moon Knight. It was a Marvel thing, right? And if you don't know the comics well enough, Moon Knight, the interesting thing about the character is that he was Jewish. Now, he was Jewish before Disney took it over, but he's a relatively popular character. He's like the Batman for Marvel, right? And so they played, they did the show just like it should be. They were very loyal to the comic, but all these little side stories you see, they're bringing up the fact that he's Jewish. They're dancing the dance. They knew they probably picked him because he's a popular character and he's Jewish, and they want to, get the most people viewing and show themselves as compassionate. And oh yeah, that's right, she said not to say anything about the Jews, but I do find it interesting. And then they've got the other card. There's another show that just recently came out called Ms. Marvel, and this is about I want to say she's Pakistani. So there's a lot of Muslim references. It leans into the culture a lot. It's a really good show, and it doesn't do, neither does Moonlight. They don't pander. It's this nice little backdrop whisper stream. Oh yeah, they do that because it's this, and I'm fine with that. But I do think that what they do is clever, and maybe it is altruistic. Who knows? I mean, it's Disney. It's not like we grew up thinking Disney evil when we were kids. I mean, I grew up on.
Does Disney own Marvel?
Disney
Now they
doesn't
do.
Marvel.
Do they own DC?
No, DC
okay.
Warner Brothers.
Now we're on the same page.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think, at least with some of the aspects, like you can say what you will. Tom, you probably watched several of the Marvel movies, right? I don't think Disney necessarily leans heavy into like woke issues. I think it's subtle, probably, maybe a little bit, but generally, at least in that aspect, like I think business dealings, they do a lot more of that. But in the content that they create, I do find that they're relatively, they stay away from it as much as they can. But when
I think they do. I think they do actually. And what Mike
Are you saying Disney or Marvel?
Marvel.
Disney.
Marvel.
Well, Disney
Okay.
owns Marvel. So
Okay, well,
any
Get your
Marvel
shit
movies
together,
or
woman.
Star Wars.
I don't know comics at all.
This
Well,
really-
okay,
it's not gonna
So
work.
think about Encanto that just came, that recently came out.
Exactly.
That
So
was
that
a
would be an
huge
example.
one about, what was it about? Generational trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Mhm. And then, I think it's called Red Panda.
Or
Just heard
turning
about
red. Turning red.
Turning Red. Okay. I don't know much about that one, but that one, there's a lot of controversy in that one, which I don't see the controversy in it so much more than it probably just didn't need to be addressed. I guess it's about a woman coming of age and she gets her period or whatever.
Whoa,
but-
what?
I think that's what everyone's saying. I don't
It's-
know. I've never really looked into it, but it sounds like something that I haven't watched an animated movie in so long. I think the last one that I watched was Cars. So, so, yeah, I know. And that was the only movie my son would watch. And then it was like Minions for a while. And then like, mystery egg or surprise egg videos came out on YouTube and we never looked back. So, did your kids ever watch those?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
God,
that's
Disney
terrible.
collector here. Oh, it's a Lightning McQueen.
No, I'm not familiar with that.
You don't know? Oh my gosh. Okay. Anyway,
I think they're very clever. I think they dance the bubble a lot. I don't.
well, the next newest Disney thing is going to be the live action Little Mermaid. Have you looked into that much?
no.
No.
I think
The
I heard
main-
about it.
Okay, so the Ariel was cast as a black girl.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's what
So
bothers me is when you change like the entire thing.
Mhm.
I mean,
But-
they're talking about James Bond being black. I can get behind that. The next James Bond, it might be Idris Elba, which I think is great. But James Bond is a fluid position within MI6, whatever. From the genre, there's been several 007s. So I can get behind that. But when you take something where the core story, it's not fluid, it's just she was the Little Mermaid. Now, I'm assuming that always was Caucasian. Not that that's good or bad.
Everyone knows
Yes.
mermaids are white, right?
Of course.
I don't look. I mean,
they
look
don't
at
get any
Shakespeare.
sun under the
Dude.
water.
Look at Shakespeare, man. There have been millions of interpretations, right? You've got
Othello was black, though, right? You don't
West Side. Look, you got West Side Story is Romeo and Juliet, right? Takes place in New York City.
And how many-
With Hispanics versus the Irish, right? That they weren't at the Globe Theater doing that. Those different versions. So I don't mind different versions of stuff. What burns my biscuits or whatever is when it feels forced. And as a as someone that watches movies and just, digests or consumes media or whatever, you can tell when it's forced and when it's just like a different take on something. Different takes on things are fantastic. But when you feel like you're being manipulated, like it's being done not for an artistic reason, but to get a higher ESG score or whatever,
Right.
that's when it takes me right out of the movie. I don't understand it. And I haven't seen the new Lightyear film. I'd love to, because I love Toy Story. I love all of them.
But they're doing
and I
this
love the
whole
character.
kiss in it, which is
And I hate that it gets
fine.
focused on it's a whole movie and it's like this one scene. And it's like, I don't
care.
It's become a distraction. And I'm like, okay, is it in there? And not having seen the movie, does it make sense in the context of the story and the movie and da da da?
Well,
Or is
that's
it
the
just
thing.
this thing thrown in there like they did in Star Wars? Like, oh, look, we're just going to throw this in there.
Well, they did.
And yeah. And if I
So-
was, lesbian or whatever, I'd be like, now you're pandering to me. To get to a word we were talking about before the show, I would feel like I feel like as a straight
It's
guy, I'm being
insulting.
manipulated. I feel like I'm being manipulated. And that's where, I know it's a gray area and I know it's in the eye of the beholder, but that's the part that gets me. I don't care three hoo-has that the Little
And-
Mermaid is going to be played by an African-American actress. That
And I
doesn't
didn't want, and I
bother
didn't
me.
mean to come across as though I find it's basically what you said. You said it much better than me. For instance, there was a Daredevil movie with Ben Affleck, and there's a character named the Kingpin, right?
Mhm.
Classically, he's this big, bald white guy, but the guy that they got to play it in the Ben Affleck version was Michael Clark Duncan, and I'm like, fucking genius. Like if it is because that's the cool choice, like if they did it because
Of
it's
course.
cool, not because it's pandering, but because it's cool, because it's Michael Clark Duncan and he actually meets the proportions of Kingpin. He was this
But
huge.
that's not why they did it, Zeus. And it wasn't pandering. It was done out of spite. And when
No,
you-
I'm saying it was
they-
a good choice.
Wait, really?
No, it was done out of spite. When Mike was saying, did they put that kiss in the movie because of artistic reasons or not? And they didn't, because
No.
originally they cut it from the movie. Listen to me for a second. They cut it out of the movie. It wasn't in the final cut.
Oh, it wasn't?
And then when they put it back in on purpose as out of spite and in a reaction to the Florida law.
Mm.
Okay.
What
I
happened
wasn't
now
aware.
last year when that Florida law came up and Disney, like Mike said, they came out and said that they were going to fight it to overturn it. A lot of people at that point, were jumping off the Disney bandwagon saying they were going to boycott and not go see the movies and not buy the products and canceling their Disney Plus. And then when this kiss happened, and it's following along of that argument with the bill in Florida. And now a lot of people didn't go and see the movie, and that's why the results were what they were. They only made 51 million opening
that's
weekend,
it?
even though it was a holiday weekend, Father's Day. A lot of fathers should have been taking their kids out to see this movie.
Or like barbecuing or
So
something
Right,
else.
but they didn't.
I
They
actually
only made 51 million.
I actually
And it's going to go
watched
down from there.
domestically.
I
They made
watched-
What movie was
34
this?
million,
Lightyear.
Buzz
worldwide.
Lightyear. Buzz Lightyear. Like
Oh yeah.
so,
And
I
it
saw that
wasn't
actually
preview.
watched
just
it.
here. It
I
was
watched-
also the Middle East didn't open anywhere in the Middle East. It didn't open in Malaysia. It didn't open in Indonesia, all because of that kiss that they
Or
stuck
maybe
in
it just
there.
wasn't a movie.
No, there was purpose because of that lesbian kiss. Those countries would not allow that movie to be
To be in the
played
theaters
there.
at all. Yeah.
So they
So-
kind of stabbed
Yeah, but
themselves in the foot
yeah.
there.
So back to my point, I understand what you're saying, Tom, but more my point is if you're using artistic license to make somebody different than it was original because they fit the bill, I mean, you guys may not do the Marvel
That would
stuff,
be
but-
great, but that's not
Can-
what Disney
Well,
is doing.
but no, but
Can
that's
I share my
Disney is doing
screen
the
or no?
I want to make a point though, because I
Oh.
actually I saw the making of this. It was like a behind the scenes for Beyond Lightyear or whatever. But back to the original thing. If it's good, if they're doing it because it's clever or because they just found the guy that they feel fits that part better, like the Michael Clark Michael Duncan Clark or Michael Clark Duncan. He was great in that role. Was he Vincent D'Onofrio in the newer version of Daredevil? No, that guy owns it. But I watched this and I can see why it bothered people, because even the way Disney delivered it on this whole Disney platform, Disney Plus, they're showing it. So what happens is, and this will, you'll see what I'm saying. So the idea of the movie is that the Buzz Lightyear, what it is this is, but they're saying Buzz Lightyear was created from a movie, right? The toy. And so this is the movie that Buzz Lightyear was created from. And the story behind the movie is that he has to go and do some kind of travel. And every time he travels, he loses like 4 years of his life. So he leaves, and then the lesbian character gets a little older. And then he leaves again, and she's a little older. And then one time he comes back, and it's just this random scene. And the way they delivered it, it looks like he leaves, comes back, knocks on her door, she's there, and it's just a quick, you know, not a deep kiss. It's just a kiss between his friend and then this new love interest of hers, and they've got a baby, and it was just, it felt very forced. And that's what I don't like when they're, like Mike was saying, when it's just this whole, look how cool we are, we're like in with everybody, and it just have it be natural, have it be organic, and it didn't feel organic, and that was what I noticed.
It's
And that's
not
why I
organic.
actually sent the link.
That's what
to
I'm
you
saying.
guys. It's
It's not.
An example, and I think we're saying, I mean, this is interesting. I mean, I want to come up with some more examples. Have you guys seen this movie?
I sent you this link in the
Oh.
chat. If you, I can't, it won't let me share my screen.
It won't
But
let you?
this is, no, but it's fine. If you can just share that. This is a picture of the live action Little Mermaid
Let
Ariel.
me look.
oh, that's what I want to see.
Okay. I'm working on it, everybody.
Well, I guess you could say it's I don't even know what to call it. But so the
Can you guys see it?
narrative that no.
It's
Yep.
up on
So the narrative is that Disney cast a black girl to play Ariel. However, when you look at this photo, that does not look like a black girl to me. She looks like she's like an orange toned skin, just like Ariel was. So it's like they maybe cast her because she fit the bill of the character, but also she happened to be black, and that's what they're going to say. They're going to say, oh, but we did it because we are woke and we're trying to, you know, be inclusive.
And you guys
look
can
at all
see
the
it
other
now?
characters.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
If you look at all the other characters in it's really funny because I don't know if you could see this because there's like black box over it, but Michelle, or no, maybe we're not, I mean, it's not Michelle, Melissa,
McCarthy is Ursula.
McCarthy she's playing Ursula. That's a good character choice.
Yeah, I thought that was, yeah, that's good.
But the guy that plays Sebastian is like a reggae type actor.
David.
And it's
Diggs.
like, okay, well, not very long ago, movies like the Lady and the Tramp and like the Aristocats were getting, you know, chastised for using, they were saying that like, you know, the Siamese cats and the Lady and the Tramp and the like the hood or the hood cats, the alley cats and the Aristocats they're calling them racist because they're portraying a character and then they're voicing them over with the character that's like perpetuating that stereotype. So it's like, okay, well, that's exactly what you're doing here.
Well, to be fair, though, Sebastian was very much like a Jamaican sounding character in the original one. So I'm not, you know.
Yeah, but how are you going to voice over a Siamese cat? You know, it's not going to be a British voice.
I think Desiree's.
In the interest of this one, I'm saying that's not for me.
I think
it's almost like it's just like they're trying to promote an agenda that might necessarily not even be there. Like they're just trying to take something out of, this is a black girl, we should promote that, not the fact that they cast her because she could have been the best actress that tried out, or her skin color really fits the profile of Ariel, you know.
Well, now let's be fair. Maybe she's gonna get out there and we're gonna find out she can fucking wail.
I'm sure she can.
maybe she's just super talented. I'd
And
be,
maybe she has an amazing voice.
yeah.
But but that's not what Disney's saying that,
Well-
Ariel was cast as Black Girl.
They're
woke.
they're sabotaging their own thing. I guess that it's like they're trying to have it both ways. And I think
Mhm.
what we're saying, I think what a lot of people are saying is just let the best person who's the actor be in it. I mean, Tom Hanks came out last week and said that, if Philadelphia was made today, he shouldn't play the role. It should go to an actual gay actor. And you hear all this all the time where it's like, if the role is gay or whatever, it has to be a gay person, or that if they're from this country, it has to be someone from that country. It's like people
So-
forget like what acting's about. I mean,
How about
when
this?
acting
Wait.
started, you had men playing women all the time. I mean, drag is
But-
old as hoo-has.
Michael,
Yeah.
why wasn't Tim Allen in the Buzz Lightyear movie?
Right. Good point. And that was political. But what I'm saying is, when
So,
you
I mean, they're
start,
doing that. I mean, I don't
they're
think
doing
it's
it. No, they
a
are. They're doing it
question.
on purpose. And when you start doing that, it ends up hurting and poisoning the well for everyone, because this lady, this young woman, who's probably fantastic, who's going to play Ariel, everyone has to second guess it, right? Because Disney's the one making such a big deal about all these
Yeah.
other things, not having Tim Allen, making
Did she
sure
get the role
that
because
they're
she's talented or because she's Black?
right. They're the ones muddying the waters. It's not, and then they
This is
turn
not
around and blame the
artistic.
public.
None of this is artistic.
No, and
They
a good
chucked-
argument would
They
be,
chucked Tim Allen on purpose because
Right.
of political views.
Right.
They stuck in the lesbian character, not only stuck in the lesbian character on purpose, not for
Yeah, put it
artistic
back in.
reasons, but then put the kiss back in there, which wasn't going to be in there, except for this. And then the stuff they're doing outside of their business. That's
we're in
another
this
thing.
weird
Hold on, I
world
gotta go
where-
find my cat. He's like scratching a door. Hang on.
You go find your pussy.
But I agree, Tom. It would be hard for someone to convince me otherwise. I agree with you. And to me, it's sad because it's just like, it's like once you start monkeying with it, it just throws the whole thing. It just poisons the well. It just poisons the well.
Well, yeah.
I mean, people are just having an adverse reaction to it as well. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't like it and they're boycotting, or they say they are. It's very difficult with Disney. I mean, Disney really has, everybody's kind of entrenched with Disney. It's hard to give up Disney.
Well, how about this? Why? I don't understand. Maybe it is people with certain values at the top because they got more money than God. Like I don't understand why they.
Oh man, that's a cutie pie.
That's a big cat.
That is a big cat.
It's all right, guys. He just locked his ass in the laundry room.
That's a
Safe.
big cat.
So,
I'm not that big.
I mean, maybe it is people at the top that have these values, or maybe they think it has that much of effect. But I don't see that anything they do could probably bring them down. I mean, for what it's worth, they make a lot of good content. We all grew up on it, and now they own Marvel. They're not going to lose any money on that. Star Wars, from what I've seen of the Star Wars stuff, it's pretty goddamn good. It's like, I mean, they're getting the original actors. They're doing a lot of stuff that's great. I don't know why they would do this unless it is. And again, they're allowed their value, their principles, and their ethos that they want to go by. I don't have to agree with it. I happen to agree that, like, just let's be fair. And this, I mean, this movie may be very good. I'm not as bothered by that as probably some people will be. I'm like, hey, if she can crush it, that's fine. I like a little bit of change. I don't like it when they take a character that is not fluid.
I don't think anybody's bothered by it. It's
Yeah,
just
and that's the
fact
red
that
herring.
It's just the fact that it's shoehorned in.
That's
That
the red herring
irks
is that
people.
there's people, like, in other words, people that have an issue about this arbitrary forced thing in Lightyear. Apparently, again, I haven't seen it, but from what Tom's saying,
It's
that's
very
exactly what
forced.
I've been hearing.
So forced.
So, but what I'm saying is, when people are like, when they're calling BS on that, then the Disney folks turn around and say, "Oh, you're being, you're anti-LGBT," which is like completely missing the entire thing. Like that's not what the case is at all.
What doesn't make sense is that they say they call them out for the BS, but then they change it back and it's no longer BS.
They want it like both ways. I'll tell you one thing. Are you guys familiar with a movie that came out like a year or so ago called Mitchell's versus the Machines? It's a cartoon. If you have kids like Tom, your kids.
No, we haven't watched it.
It's really funny. It's a really funny movie. And the lead character in it is gay. And it's very subtle, and it's kind of like at the end, but it totally fits the character. It's like, I know I'm using this as an example because I watched that movie. I enjoyed it. It's a great, fun kids movie. Very creative, a lot of fun, and that was part of it. And it's like it wasn't even a blip. I was like, nope, like, because it totally fit. It fit the story. I didn't feel like it was for what I'm saying is.
No one talked about the fact that Olaf was, a freaking rainbow, and
but is he?
Because it fit. It just made sense.
I mean, anyway, it's like it goes back to the whole thing. Like, I don't want to be thinking about Olaf's sexuality. I'm sorry. I don't even.
Right.
It doesn't cross my mind.
Think about that, but you don't think about it because it makes sense that character, that voice fits that character. That just over the top flamboyant voice fits it, and you don't think about it.
Voices him, and he's a super, super talented guy. I don't like his politics at all, but he's a great talent, and the Olaf character is a great character. Absolutely.
But here's the problem, and when you mentioned it before about Disney lobbying against the Florida Parents' Rights Bill, and you said it's not really in Disney's interest. Not only is it not in their interest, it's kind of the opposite of their interest, because they're in the business of children. And all of these bills, when you talk about lesbian or gay, we don't call somebody gay because they like rainbows,
right? Or
they like cakes or the Wizard of Oz. And you don't call somebody lesbian because they like trucks and.
Hey, what does the Wizard of Oz have to do with it?
You're gay because you like to have sex with other men, or you're lesbian because it's sex is the reason that you have those labels. And when you're introducing the LGBTQ labels to children, that's
not appropriate.
You can't have those discussions without talking about sex. There's no way to explain it in any other way. And when you have a character, and these characters keep kind of coming into the Disney movies, and you got to ask yourself, well, why, when the target audience is young children?
Why is this?
Why is this important to have and say this character is gay?
Yeah,
I mean, even if it's an aside, and you say, oh, he just happens to be gay, that's okay. But I mean, why point out?
And then you got like a 6-year-old mommy. Yeah. Why is that girl kissing that other girl?
Yeah, and why is this a defining thing? Like, why are people put into categories based on who they're attracted to? I mean, that's one of many things, right? But how is it? It seems to be like the primary thing for Disney. I mean, at this point,
that's the agenda, I think, of the current. I don't know. Country we're in.
The other thing that this is another thing that burns my biscuits a little bit, as someone who
his biscuits have burned a lot.
I mean, I'm just saying, I have been, I don't know, I don't even know how to say this. It's like the gay and lesbian folks out there, how is, like, if you have an issue with chemically castrating 14-year-old and like having surgery on teenagers and puberty blockers and all this other stuff, somehow you're anti-gay LBGQ. It's like, no, man. Like Chappelle said, T is a whole different thing, man. Like, I don't understand how people who are gay and lesbian have allowed themselves to get drawn into this childhood trans situation that it's so fraught.
I
And
heard a statistic recently that said that like,
it's just, I don't know.
non-binary thing that's going on, like the numbers have doubled in like the last 5 years.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a social contagion, man.
Well, okay, to be fair, I mean,
Hold on, before we get on this topic, I do have a very serious question. What did you guys think about Captain America being a woman?
that's
I did
fine
not see it.
because
I don't know.
well, that's again a
I don't have an opinion. I just don't
Oh,
know.
was that in like one of
Was she
the?
made to be
It was in-
like?
No, it was in What If. It was in What If. So the
Oh,
whole
right,
idea
right,
is,
okay.
what if a woman was Captain America? What if
No,
And
Captain
she wasn't
America.
Captain America. No, she was like Captain Britain or something, wasn't she?
No, she became, it was What If, and What If is an alternate Marvel universe where what if Captain America was Peggy, what if Peggy Carter
Or
was
wasn't she
Captain
wearing
America?
the Union Jack? Or was she?
Yeah, no, she was Captain America.
Like,
Okay.
But yeah,
is this a
you guys-
comic book, Desiree, or are you talking about a movie?
You know the Captain America.
It
You
was on
know,
Disney
No,
Plus.
I know what
the
she's
What If
talking about,
series.
and it was actually, it actually wasn't a pandering thing. It's a what if. So it's like, what if Spider-Man was a member of the Fantastic Four?
Okay, guys, I seriously thought that's how they revealed Captain America as a woman.
No. It was
Okay,
all,
well, then I
it was
think
all,
it's
there was a series in Marvel Comics called What If, and they did all these, what if Doctor Doom was a member of the cap? It was all these, what if Batman was Superman? Like, it was like, what if the same origin story, but a different hero kind of thing. But, what bothers me is I'm going to call back to, if you guys remember, we did this thing about this guy that was on the Heritage Found, that you spoke for the Heritage Foundation. And this is what bothers me about it. It's not that somebody wants to have a different sexuality. That's cool. And I think it is real. I think that now, though, it's become a different thing. It's become a new way to express yourself, your individuality. And I'm, not so sure that was necessarily the way to do it. Most people in their youth question their sexuality, but when we were kids, you didn't have 50,000 sources that could tell you, yes, because in the Heritage Foundation, basically what this guy said was he went to his grandmother and he said, I think there's something wrong with me. I feel like I'm a girl trapped in a boy's body. And his grandmother bought him a dress. And when he was there, he could wear the dress. And that's cool. And it seems supportive. But what he ended up saying at the end, and I thought this was really profound, was that when he went to his grandmother and said he was confused about things, she said, and he was angry about this. She said, not in these words, but by her actions, she said, yeah, you're broken. Therefore, reinforcing whatever, just choosing a side for him, saying, yes, you're broken, instead of saying, go out, meet people, figure out if that's what you want. And if that's what you want, I'll be there for you. But instead, she probably did something along the lines of said, yeah, I know there's something a little different about you. I'm going to lean into it. And she probably had no ill intent. And I don't even know if she was probably wrong. But at the end of the day, he actually changed his sex back. Another thing about this is that a lot of people that have sex changes end up committing suicide. I don't have specific numbers, but it's enough to be noticed, which says to me that maybe they should be spending more time exploring those feelings.
Or it's the hormones.
Yeah,
Can I make an analogy with that? Because
no, I was talking.
People say, so if you encourage people to wait with the affirmation, or if you try to discourage it or tell them to hold off in any way, that's considered transphobic. But think about this: when it comes to marriage, we all say, hey, don't rush into it. Take your time. Make sure it's right for you. And that's not being marriage phobic. We're not against marriage, are we? No, we're just
We're
saying that 'cause
pragmatic
we
thinking.
know
I
that
mean,
you
yeah.
have
or
to be
pragmatic
careful. You don't rush into things.
Yeah.
That's all. I mean,
Giving
it's not-
advice, wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're
it's not
talking about-
transphobic to say, don't get the surgery right away. Just wait and see,
Right.
make
Don't
sure
cut
that
off
it's
a
right.
part of your body until you're sure you never want to see that part of your body again.
I
Well,
mean, it seems
yeah.
sensible.
I have a niece that's actually transgendered, and it was a very different like situation that we were all going through when this happened. And my sister was very good about she always has been going through and saying like this is okay, and she actually was gonna let him at the time go through start having him take hormones and all the things to let him start changing into a him. She was born a girl, transgendered into a male, changed her name, and now that she discovered herself, or that he discovered himself, he is now a she again. However, she kept the name change,
Okay.
but it's a lesbian.
Gotcha.
So,
Like-
I mean, I see it a lot.
That
in
happens
my-
with marriage. A lot of people get divorced and they
And
change
become
it. They say,
lesbians.
"Whoops,
Keep the name. I mean,
whoopsie."
and it's like, I'm really glad that my sister didn't like go and take her to do the hormone therapy, because Jesus, I mean, I feel like you got to be at least at like a certain age to do that. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
good for you, especially, she was born a female. You fuck that up. I mean, it could mess a bunch of stuff up, but it might be a
And
little
it's
different from males to
acknowledging,
females,
yes.
but
It's again acknowledging that, because they're coming to you going, I'm confused, something's wrong with me. And I'm not, this isn't me like invoking these thoughts on them. This has to be how the conversation comes across. Mom, dad, grandma, whoever, I feel different than everybody else. I'm not saying something wrong with me. I'm not saying that they're saying there's something wrong with me. They're saying, I don't think like everybody else. And then society or the parents or whoever, they go, yes, you're right. You're completely different than everybody else.
Is this the conversation that Disney wants us to have? When you
Not this
start
one.
thinking about, when you start thinking about Disney, the next thing you know, you're talking about whether or not you should have a sex change.
Yeah.
Is this,
Yeah.
because
How did
that's
this
happening
happen?
on the newest, greatest movie. I mean, like,
How
just
did
like
they
I
trick
said, my
you into
son
doing
watched
this?
Cars probably 8,000 times. If the premise of Cars was Lightning McQueen and Tomato getting together, like that would be ingrained in my son's brain.
How about,
And it's
Well,
It's
real-
literally
real-
a hookup?
Zeus,
Is
real
it
quick, because
Is it
I know
taken?
Tom's got to jump here soon, and just so Tom can get his final thoughts in. Just getting back to the original thing, do you have any insight into what the motivation is? Like, what's your gut feeling? Like, say specifically for Disney, and then maybe for companies in general. What's
I
your
think
gut
it-
feeling? Not you. I mean, Tom, because he's got to leave soon.
sorry,
Then we'll talk about it.
I think it's being led by the employees. And I think this is the thing for a lot of companies. And when
You
you
don't
ask
think
at the beginning,
investors-
how is this happening? It's usually a handful, or it can be a large group of employees in a company that are very vocal and putting a lot of pressure on management to make certain changes and certain concessions. And they do it because that's what companies are used to doing. When you get one written complaint, you take it seriously and you take action on it. And when you get a bunch of them from a coordinated group of people, you can all of a sudden you can find yourself heading in a direction that maybe you didn't really think it through or intend to go fully in that direction, but because of the pressure and the noise that some people can make, I think that's how a lot of companies end up in this situation.
Okay, cool.
I like that. I equate this to the next movie about the Beatles coming out, and the entire cast is Aboriginal.
There's just
Right.
Big Thunder.
You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, I feel like we might be heading that way. Bon Jovi's coming around, but this time they're all Mexican. You know what I mean? It's like, when does it stop? When does the change? When does the irrational changing of certain things that are not, again, if it's fluid, that's fine. James Bond, cool, I get it. You know, try out something new. In the last movie, 007 was a black woman, and it worked because it was a fluid. You know, it wasn't. They didn't change the core story. Yes, are we used to seeing James Bond as being a white British guy? Sure, I get that, but it was always a nomenclature. James, there were several MI6, you know, agents. It wasn't anybody could be 007. It's like kind of like in football, retiring your number, which was kind of the joke in this movie. By the way, really good movie. Yeah, I don't feel it's healthy for society to make brash changes based on trying to please everybody. Because you know what? This is like what's, you know, movies and business and all this has been going on for a very long time. Mostly not offending everybody and just doing, you know, sticking to their political parties, doing their things. You know, NRA is never going to be Democratic, right? You know, PFLAG or NARAL, they're never going to be Republican. Certain things, they have their places. They keep, there's checks and balances, like for all your, you know, Budweisers and Anheuser-Busch's, you have Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Like there's always something that,
Two sides of the road.
But like, look at, like, I mean, the sports teams or the sports leagues are interesting. I mean, you look
What
at
are the sports leagues doing?
Well, like, and the NBA, right, is, or like MLB, when they were like wanting to take the All-Star game out of Atlanta because Georgia was actually trying to get their voting laws returned to what they were before the 2020 election, and they were called all kinds of names, and they moved the All-Star game to Denver, right, and took it out of Atlanta.
Hot in Atlanta.
Well, I mean, but they took it out for political reasons, and meanwhile, and supposedly, you know, because of racism, and Atlanta was like, you know, 90% African American, and Denver's like 1% African American. So it's like counterintuitive. And then the NBA, you know, you've got people like LeBron James and Steve Kerr and all these people that are just so far left and always browbeating, you know, the public about whatever woke issue there is. And they fully endorse and make their money off of slave labor in China. And you're not allowed to point that out, you know? I mean, Colin Kaepernick is browbeating people all the time. He's a sponsor for Nike who uses slave labor in China. I mean, this is not a joke. I mean, there's 1 million people in internment camps over there.
You know, interesting.
But what I'm saying is, it is a business decision. The MLB, NBA, NFL, these are business decisions. And, you know, I'm assuming, I don't know, it used to be business decisions. Now I'm not so sure. Tom seems to think it's the employees driving it. So in the sports league analogy, it would be the players that are driving it. It may be, but if that's the case, I think these other companies are going to see what's going on and not take that road. But that doesn't seem to be happening. It seems like they are. More companies.
Well, it seems, just to quote you guys, it seems like all of these companies are kind of trying to fit themselves into the party, and it's like they're doing these woke things that are kind of forced or not, or are just kind of weird and maybe misplaced. And you can't say anything that's conservative because, you know, then you're canceled. And so it just kind of feels like all of that is, you know, going towards that agenda.
Yeah.
You know, there was a period where PC, I actually was kind of on board with a lot of it, but that was also a period when homosexuality was coming up from, you know, coming out of the shadows, and people were more open, and you knew them for who they were, and that's fine. But now,
Yeah, but it's not, it's like leftist media. It's not even politically correct.
Yeah.
like PC is something complete. It's not political. It's social, and I know those are kind of the same, but they're kind of not the same. Like it's really, it's all to the constituents, and mark my words, 10 years from now, we may be having a completely different conversation from the other side of, wow, remember the good old days when, you know, what's going on now was the nice thing. But I feel like there's just this hard push to change the world and not let it be organic.
Mhm.
It's this manufactured, canned, all the preservatives, like it's fucking awful.
Yeah, like there's two things I can think of. They're super organic. Grey's Anatomy, the whole like entire running of that show there's been same-sex couples the entire time, super organic.
Yeah.
But also Brokeback Mountain, that was not, that whole thing was like,
movie.
that was not even forced. Like, okay, no
That's
one
the
watched
story.
that movie. I can't believe I just watched two gay dudes. Like, no, it was a good movie.
No, you
That
watch
was the
that
story.
movie, and then about halfway through, you forget that it's two guys that are like,
Yep. Mhm.
working their
Yeah.
own with you.
But
But that's
again,
It's
how
just a good
these
movie.
things are going. Like,
But if
that's
you
not how
guys-
this Buzz Lightyear movie was, you know?
but if you guys remember when Brokeback Mountain came out, there were people that still weren't happy with it because the actors weren't gay.
But
You know,
they-
which I thought was like crazy. It's like they're actors. They're portraying a role. I
that
mean,
was a
Maybe nobody gay tried out. Like,
that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying people had an issue with it. You know, it's like you can't please everyone all the time.
exactly. You can't please everyone all the time. No. So we should just stop making movies and television and everyone fucking look at the wall.
Yeah.
Like,
How about another
because-
good one, another great movie that gay issues in it, transgenderism, is The Crying Game. That is a fucking amazing movie. And have you seen it?
Yeah, it was good.
no.
Oh, you got to see it, Desiree. It's great. I'm
Don't
not going to
give-
give it
just
away. Yeah, I can't give it
Kinda
away.
did.
But man, it's a really, really good movie. And the punchline, for lack of a better term, will throw you off, and you'll be like, holy shit, that is like, it's just, there's a sweetness to it in the utter violence that goes on around it, but there's like a kindness to it. It's a great movie. A great movie.
So I don't know how that movie has aged. I'd be curious to see it again now because it is from a little bit of a different time. You know.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
It definitely was poignant. It made there's values that were in it that were spectacular, and it showed intolerance and then sudden tolerance. It's like it was a really
I think that, and again, we've hit on this before. I think the in our culture right now, in the media, in the entertainment media and all that, politics, I think the general public in this country gets a bad rap as being like Cro-Magnons or Neanderthals and not being
mouth breathers
and not being like, you know, compassionate and lovers of art and everything else. It's like, you know, oh, if I have an issue with the way they did this issue with Lightyear, it means I'm like anti. No, man, it doesn't. It
No.
means I'm anti-shitty movie. That's what it means. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
just like with the Little Mermaid, if somebody was like, but Ariel's white, oh, you're so racist because, you know,
It's like it's a
Disney
legit question to bring up.
I get what you're saying, but I'm not gonna hold court on that movie yet, because that may just be talent.
I know, and that's what I'm trying to say. It could probably be that, but that's not, when you Google live action Little Mermaid 2023,
That all the press.
that comes up is black girl cast, Halle Berry
Yeah.
cast.
They're
Mary.
making it. They're turning it into that when it should just be a great movie.
This is
they're,
movie.
They're
Yeah.
couching it a certain way, which is really just a backhanded. It's a backhanded thing.
It's
So-
almost
Remember
like
when
you're
Annie
saying-
came out? Annie was black. She could sing her ass off. That's probably why she got it. But that
And
was
how
not
about-
the print.
And
Like
how about
everyone,
the Jamie Foxx
she was
version?
black.
The Jamie Foxx version, where it was like, it was Jamie Foxx and then the little girl was black. It was good, and nothing wrong with it. And I don't like if you do this whole like switch the cast thing. You know, it was apparent that that's what they were doing. This is an African American version of Annie, and it was good. It was really good. Jamie Foxx is a hell of an actor. She could sing. It's not so bad, but it wasn't a forced thing. You know, there's times when you do it and you're just like, really, what are you trying to do?
Well,
And
I think that and like The Wiz and so that's different than what we're talking about. I know, but what I'm saying is what we're talking about now, like in the last couple of years, is it's a whole different thing. It's different because it's not. No one has an issue with reinterpretations of famous stories.
There's 1,000 Cinderella stories out there.
Yeah, it's
you know?
when something. It's like when someone kind of has like they're wearing it on their sleeve and they're pushing it like, and the art gets lost and it just becomes like you're just checking boxes. Okay, do we have this person in the cast? Okay, I'm gonna go see this movie. It's like, no, is the movie good? Is it a good story? I mean, that's what should be. I mean, that's true. Isn't that true equality, right? When movies are judged against other movies, regardless of who's in them.
Why is the fact that this girl is black? Why is that even?
Why is that?
Why is that news?
I mean,
why is that an article?
And I'm not saying they need to hide it either. Like it is. I mean, people have two eyes; they can see.
But let
it's
people ask
amazing.
questions. Don't deliver the answer before the question.
Yeah.
How about this?
Don't let AP press come out. Disney cast Black Girl's Ariel. Like that's.
Why is that even the headline? Why should it be a headline? Yeah.
How about? I mean, like, what if they did Roots now? But it
as a white girl.
It was all white people.
What if they did the Color Purple white version?
How?
What if they did? What if they did To Kill a Mockingbird, but made Scout white?
Mm-hmm. Or To Sir with Love, but it was no, actually they did that. It was Dangerous Minds with Michelle Pfeiffer. Never mind. Yeah, some things you don't change. Some things they were fine. And when they do change them, that's when you start to go, well, what the fuck is the motivation here? But see, that's never going to happen. And this is not like, I don't really give a shit what character or what actress or whatever plays whatever character. But in society today, if you were to take any movie, any story, any whatever, and turn it to a white version, oh, fuck. Like, yeah, that company's getting canceled because that would not fly.
It would be a farce comedy, right? It would have
How about this? Blazing Saddles is hands down maybe one of the funniest movies ever made.
I don't know what Blazing Saddles is.
It's good. You would like it. You would like it, Desiree.
Yeah. It's an amazing.
Mel Brooks.
Yeah, it's an amazingly well done movie.
Gene Wilder.
Yeah, Cleavon Little, who was supposed to be actually Richard Pryor. Original. And it's got a lot of racial content in it, but here's the interesting thing. Blazing Saddles couldn't be made today, guaranteed. Django
Unchained, which is the funniest fucking movie,
uses the N-word like 600 times. And
we all think the masks were a good idea.
Yeah, that's a great movie. I don't even understand why Django is more acceptable than Blazing Saddles, but I know that if you were to go out and popular opinion, have people watch both movies, Django would not be the one that bothered people nearly as much.
See, I don't know, man. We're told that Blazing Saddles bothers people, but I've never met anyone that was bothered by Blazing Saddles.
How can it? It's so fucking funny.
No, what I'm saying is it's this cloud, this media, this whatever we assume that people. No one has an issue with Blazing. Have you ever run into anyone that had an issue with Blazing Saddles? I've never.
No, but if you look at any list of movies that can't be made today, it's
but who are these people saying it? These are just dumb writers. These are people in their basement.
Yeah.
Like they don't carry any cachet with me.
Fucking media trolls. Yeah.
They're not. It's not like a popular election. It's not like we voted on this. These are just morons sitting at their typewriters saying it. It doesn't make it so. It doesn't make it true.
Putting words on paper, trying to make news that's not.
It's not even
news.
Exactly.
How about like a movie like Tootsie? I don't know if Tootsie would get made so easily.
Probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I want to, not that I do have to get jumping, and I'm sorry, I got to hop off here soon.
Yeah.
But I would like to dive. We touched on a couple of things I'd like to get back into
Mhm.
again. And we've been on for like an hour and 40 minutes or so.
Oh, wow.
Just FYI.
A lot of it's gonna get cut out.
Yeah, that one whole middle part. But no,
Was
I
it
know
something
Tom
I
had to
said
go.
again.
The what?
Was it something I said again?
No. It was when I had the PowerPoint. So nothing bad.
Oh, that. I mean, so for me, I think it's more investors. If to answer your question, you asked Tom,
Yeah.
I think it's more investors. Somehow, fringe groups have gotten a great deal of power, and I'm not saying they don't deserve it. I'm saying everybody deserves a say, but we're a society, right? And if you, as a lifestyle choice, or as a choice in general, decide to not be a part of society, hey, dude, I got you, especially if like we share sentiments on things, but I still got you for you being able to say how you feel and not suffer repercussions. What I don't like, so back to the investors part. So we're at this weird place where fringe groups, small groups that don't necessarily share the same feelings as other people go, hey, I don't want to be part of your gang, but I want you to change everything about you to make me feel good and sleep well at night. And I understand that they could feel that way, but I also think that to some degree, it's unrealistic and it's unfair that, say, I like to walk around naked in the neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
and I love it. It makes me comfortable, thank God. And then everybody else is like, no, we don't want to see any of that. But I'm like, but you're making me feel bad. And then for whatever reason, a bunch of other weirdos that want to walk around naked all the time start backing me up. And one of them is an investor in a company. All of a sudden, you got poorly endowed men walking around naked everywhere. It just doesn't make sense to ask society to bend to you. It's a society.
Yeah, being offended is not,
It's not a law to not.
Yeah, it's not a right to not be offended.
In fact, being offended is what helps us evolve. If we don't, it's the dodgeball argument.
Well, I love,
If we're not offended, or if there's not a stunt in the evolutionary chain, nothing changes. So we stay stagnant, and maybe we don't get those wings we're supposed to sprout 100 years from now and be able to fly on our own. We're stunting our growth, obviously more from a cerebral evolution, but I don't know that we're necessarily in a great place when we allow when we all try to be the same. I think we have to be different, and we have to not like some of the things, but we can't go
of course
on them either.
There's a TikTok, if you guys watch the Ticker Talker, that it's this video of this playing a son and a dad, and this dad walks in and he goes, "Hello, non-binary offspring," and the child replies, "Hello, non-gender specific parent. I would like to ask you if you're okay with eating dinner. It's ready." And he goes, "Maybe an hour. Actually, I don't even know what I feel anymore." like
they couldn't even communicate. Yeah.
It's like kids they don't even I don't even know what I feel like anymore, because the decisions, everything's just coming so powder your ass.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
How about non-binary makes me feel like we are in the Matrix. Like we're literally computer programs. We're ones and zeros. But anyway, Mike, before we wrap up, because we've been on for a while, what is your feeling on all this?
Yeah, I and this has helped me kind of think about it more. I don't want to believe this, but I actually believe that it's the CEO class in these companies that their peers are these cultural leaders, politicians people in academia, the
Illuminati,
intellectual
is that what you're
class.
saying? Are you saying
No,
Illuminati?
just the power class, you know, in this country. I think that the CEOs are running in those same circles as the crazy college professors and the leftist politicians and the movement leaders. I think they're all coming out of the same schools and the same backgrounds, and I think they're true believers. And I think we're going to go through some painful times here, especially when the federal government codifies this with the SEC, with all this ESG stuff. I think we're going to have to go through the knee-deep shithole to get to the other side, and it's going to be painful.
Well, because you know
before
they're going
people
to, most
realize
of that weight in that score is going to have to come from social and what did it say, leadership, because the whole environmental shit, like that's, you know, they take recycling, the one thing that's supposed to be, you know, great. Half of it, most of it,
Goes
like
in landfill.
90% is just going in the landfill, getting sent to Malaysia and getting dumped in the ocean. But, you know, it just makes us feel better that, you know, you
Right.
put that in that bin outside. Like,
Right. I think they're actually true believers, because it's,
You know,
I
what's
just can't think of
bothersome
any
about
other
that
thing that's
term?
rational.
You know what's bothersome about that term is, I know we're not supposed to use these references based on what Desiree said earlier, but you know who else were true believers? The 19 men that flew planes into the Twin
Yeah.
Towers.
It's an irrationality. There's an
The SS,
irrationality to it.
1939.
Look.
True believers are dangerous.
It's the whole thing of,
are the people that shot Dr. Chiller in the church.
yeah,
You guys know who that is? No.
no,
Nope.
I've
Dr.
heard the
Chiller
name.
is the abortionist that got shot in the church here by the Westboro Baptist Church.
Oh, wow.
Those fuckers. I hate. We should do an episode on those motherfuckers.
When was that? Was that like years and
That
years
was,
ago?
oh no.
Recent?
Wow, I thought, no, I was like in college still. Like I was in college still. Like I went twice.
So like the alts.
The Westboro Baptist Church are fucking crazy.
Oh, I know
fucks.
who they are. I just didn't know they shot
2009.
2009. So it was the
2009.
alts.
So
Okay.
yeah. So actually, he went to a church that's down the street from where I live, and yeah, he was just standing outside the sanctuary, and this fucking crazy fucker comes up and just pops one right in the head, kills him right in church.
Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
No, I didn't. I
And
knew
he was
I knew,
like, and he looked at himself as a hero because he took out the abortionist.
wow. Yeah, no, look, crazy people are, the ideology is, it could be on across the entire spectrum, for sure.
I've grown more. The only change I've made as I've gotten older, that I think is really important, is that I've used the term a lot this episode, but I've become more fluid in this. I don't lock myself into anything because I like to think of both sides, and so I can see where this comes from. A couple of times tonight, I've been like, you know, to Disney's credit, you know, they do this with their movies, and they don't.
But there's a point where you, as I like to say, Disney, you're doing too much. You are doing the most. I need you to do the least. Just do a little bit less with all of that.
And I checked just because I was curious. Disney's stock is down 40% over the last year. I'm not saying
they're
it's
only
from
making
this.
hundreds of billions.
I'm just saying it's not working. It's not a business decision, I guess, is what, you know, one of my things was like, oh, it's a business. I don't think this is a business decision.
It's like they did really good with Encanto, and then they just went, oh, they did too much.
But look at all the companies that they own. Did all the companies they own go 40%?
It's Disney as the parent company is down 40%.
Right, but what if Lifetime's flying high because
Lifetime doesn't have its own ticker. It's all under Disney. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, listen, ladies and
Well,
gents,
guys.
I think we've been on long enough, as Jack says. I think it's time to call it a wrap.
Very good. I forgot.
Have a good week, everybody.
It was really great.
Bye.
And Des, thank you for coming on.
Thanks,
Always
Des.
a pleasure. Our own little Disney princess.
Yes.
No,
All right.
they wouldn't
care.
cast me.
Take care.
I'll see you later. See you, Des.
Bye.
Bye-bye.